Rum-tum, diddle-diddle-lum-dum-dum-dum. Roll up, everybody. It's the Punch and Judy of politics. Now, many people talk about how the Punch and Judy of politics and that thing and across the dispatch box, which generally the voting public aren't supposed to like, will be stopped. And it isn't being stopped, and it's continuing, and it was obliquely referred to in the latest Punch and Judy across the dispatch box statement or piece, speech, which a lot of people are referring to on Twitter or X, mainly Twitter. That renaming and rebranding hasn't really taken, has it? They're referring to Kemi Bademich's speech. She is now the Shadow Housing Minister, so it was a speech against Angela Rayner. It was against Angela Rayner, let's be honest, it was. And it was Punch and Judy politics. It no doubt was. Now, people on X and Twitter are commenting on it, and there'll be people who follow politics. I follow politics. And that's why I know there were several things that shouldn't have been done by Kemi Bademich here. Now, let me state, first of all, I'm not a Conservative voter and I'm not a Conservative fan. I would vote for the other side in general and did at this election. However, I did it with a really bad grace, and I did it because of my local MP, not because of the National Party. So, and I think that generally people who vote because of one issue, it could be an issue around a local issue, or it could be an issue around keeping more of your money with the Tories, or it could be an issue around immigration with reform, or it could be, I like that man in that skin-tight suit leading a llama around or falling off a wakeboard and you'll vote Lib Dem. Could be that. That's absolutely fine. Those people who don't vote, please do vote. But that's absolutely fine because that is real for you. But there are lots of people who are politics geeks like me who stayed up on that election night. I did fall asleep and woke up and felt a bit ill and went to bed. But there are people people like me who are a bit geeky about it and can name MPs and know who those big players are. And I'm not saying that's a great thing. I'm not saying, so I must be a lot better. No, that's not the case at all. Politics hits you in different ways, doesn't it? And we don't have a long-term political view now, do we? We simply don't. Because I'm holding in my hand a phone. This will be shared on social media. We have a 5-year fixed-term Parliament Act, so it's very much about we need to get something done in 5 years because they'll forget. People will forget. That short-termism really affects us politically. And generally, the people who are ballyhooing or saying this is awful on social media are the ones who follow politics. So, I think there are several things that Kemi Bademich should not have done. Because people like me, and many like me, who either support her party or don't, or don't really have a political home at the moment, but who follow politics, will see what she's done. Number one, do not do that virtual hug. Do not do that virtual, it's great to see another woman in a position of power. It is, mind you, it absolutely is, but it's not real. Because what you're going to do is you're just setting it up to then attack. Secondly, get your campaigning idea right, or research it, because she mentions, and this is actually a very good way of doing this, she mentions Angie Rayner, who's sitting across on the dispatch box from her, being set up regarding the housing targets, because that's a Rachel Reeves thing. Yeah, it is. And it probably won't be fulfilled, that housing target. So you could say that, yes, Angie Rayner is the one who's going to take all the flack. And it would have been even better had Angie Rayner announced it. But she didn't. It was Rachel Reeves, wasn't it, who announced it? I'm thinking it might be Yvette Cooper, but it wasn't. It was Rachel Reeves. And not only did she announce it, she really dug down into the, people aren't going to like this, but, the planning procedure is going to have to change. Lots of things are going to have to change. It's not going to be popular, but we're going to do it. So actually, she was laying it on the line. She was the one who did that. People will remember that. They're not going to say, that Angie Rayner, yes, you're right, she's going to have to come on and defend it. And yes, you're right, there are going to be issues around it. But the aspiration is great. Another thing, the aspiration now, because we have a social media world, in a way, you just need to announce it. You don't necessarily need to follow it through that much. I'm not saying this is a Labour thing, this is a political thing now, and it's terrible. In the past, there would be some scrutiny, wouldn't there, about how's that going? Even if people ask about that on social media, it's really surface, it's a headline, it's not a serious discussion. So you can just announce stuff. Political parties announce stuff and don't do anything with it. They announce it on X or Twitter, or Facebook, and then people say that's marvellous or that's not marvellous, and we don't hear about it again. That's what we're doing. So there's that. There's get your research straight. There's then you grew up in a Tory situation, which is, or a Tory, that got a bit of a snotty nose, a Tory Thatcherite world in which you were supported. However, you could say, because it is an authentic story with Angie Rayner, the way that she has really, you could, if you want to use this phrase, made something of her life. Had a really difficult start, and then has really ascended in a social situation, a social, economic job situation. She has an authentic story. I say story because you can use that sort of thing in politics. And there's nothing wrong with that if you're accepting the current political situation, if you're accepting the current political beauty pageant, which it's been for quite some years, hasn't it? We used to, in the 70s, and I remember this, have politicians who, at peak time, would be on a programme where they would just discuss things with the audience. It wasn't planned. They would just have a discussion. And nobody shouted, "You're wrong!" And nobody shouted, "I'm never voting for you again." And people said, I don't agree with what you're saying, but I understand what you're saying. And sometimes politicians, and I remember this, I remember Michael Foot with this, saying, well, actually, that's changed my view a bit. We don't have that now. So that kind of authentic story is something that the Tories cannot rubbish. But Kemi Bademich had a go. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out because she said, you were helped by the Tories, by Thatcher. No one really remembers that. Not now. This is the problem with current short-termism. And then she said, and I had a problem in a socialist government in Nigeria, I think she said. It's Nigeria, isn't it? She didn't just say that, though. If she'd have said a socialist government, a socialist military government, right, that's not the same thing. Even if we could define the word socialism, and that's the problem with socialist groups, folks, it doesn't help. It simply doesn't help. It doesn't work. What also doesn't work is packing too many things into your speech. Because by the end of it, I was thinking, where are we now? What are we talking about now? It ranged over so many different kind of subjects. And the final point I would make is linked to that, which is try not to be snippy. Try not to show that the massive loss of Tory seats at the last election has bothered you. That is not what one is supposed to do. One is supposed to do in modern politics. And most of the people I saw, quite quasi-Kwarteng, not the real Kwarteng, quasi-Kwarteng, saying that he was the real Kwarteng. And he did very well, because he was saying on the Channel 4 election coverage that it wasn't good, and he was giving us the reasons why, and he was saying where they might be able to plan from there. Great, really good insight. And nobody was really angry or cheesed off. Nigel Evans has been booted out of his of being an MP after 30 plus years. And his piece on social media was lovely and sweet and very nice. This wasn't. It just seemed bad-tempered and angry, and the reason why it sounded that way is because the Tory party need another Thatcher. Penny Mordaunt's gone. You can't have Penny Mordaunt. Suella Braverman, too waspish. Suella, too waspish. Kemi, probably the right thing. And it showed she had some stickability and that she could attack Angie Rayner, who we all know, in my view, is, and she shouldn't be thought of in this way, but I think people do think of her as, well, she's Tony Blair's John Prescott for Keir Starmer. And that is absolutely the wrong thing entirely, you know. But this clearly was Suella making that push. Did I not mention Priti Patel? No, I didn't, did I? I think I mentioned Suella Braverman over and over again. Priti Patel. She's too waspish. Penny Mordaunt was Thatcherite. She was ideal. Gone. Can't have her back. Can't get her back. Suella, too waspish. Kemi, right. Absolutely right. That's why we had this. And you know what? She is the future of the Tory party. Never mind that Jeremy Hunt. He's too linked to the past. She got out before the ordeal really, although she's been involved in some issues, you know, political, well, there's a post office thing, isn't there, and all that. She got out before things really got bad. She's not spattered with all that ordeal. And for the Tories, she's ideal, I think. But she's going to have to do better than this. Because it just played into political tropes. And whoever you are, you just have to be a little bit guarded. Because we see it. And I certainly did. Ta-ta.